Hi, it's Sandra Bellamy from Quirky Books. This is a place to be for how to live your best life, be your best self, and live your purpose. And in today's life hack, we're going to be talking about if you are a writer of non-fiction interview books, how best to approach the beginning, middle, and end of your book. Now, if you didn't already know, I am already a published author under Quirky Books, which is my own publishing and imprint. This book came out in 2017, which is my Asexual Perspectives, 47 Asexual Stories, Love, Life and Sex, A Celebration of Asexual Diversity book. And I've also published this one in print. I've got quite a few ebooks out as well. This one in print is Fibromyalgia Self-Help Handbook, How to Manage Fibromyalgia to Have Less Pain, More Energy and Feel Happier Like a Superhero Rock Star. Obviously, if you do get a copy of this, it won't have the not for sale copy because this is my own personal copy. So this came out last year in 2019. When I'm recording this, it's 2020. So if you want the links to my books, they are down below. So as you know, I like to do some life hacks on this channel, or some live hacks, and today's one is specifically geared towards fellow writers. So what a lot of people do when they get started on their writing journey, they read a lot of self-help books. They learn that every book should have a beginning, middle and end in order to structure it. And obviously most people, most would-be authors would assume the beginning, middle and end is how you should write the book, right? So first of all, what you should actually do is kind of like write the different chapters out. So the different headings of the chapters as much as you know, and the different subheadings. Kind of like in a spider diagram. So you have the main subject of the book, then you have like the headings that you think are the parts of the subject that you want to cover within the book. And then within under those headings, you write underneath them subheadings as to what kind of thing you would break down into. So if you're, for example, doing a book on dating, you might be doing a book on dating for women who are 40 years old or older, and you might have a section that's dating men your age, and then you might have a section that's dating, you know, like one section might be, does age difference actually matter? Another section might be, you know, like does age matter? And then under it, you might have dating men your own age and dating men much younger than you. And then the pros and cons to each of those. Do you see what I mean? And so you do a heading and then you do subheadings underneath, right? As much as you know. But what it's best to do when you first start a book is, obviously, you know there's going to be a beginning, middle and end, but it's just to get all your thoughts down on paper before you forget them. So as a writer, you should always be having some paper to hand. A notepad, a pen by the side of your bed, for example, in the kitchen when you're making food, out in the hallway when you're doing stuff out there, whatever you're doing, you know. You should have notepads and pens lying around everywhere, so you can just grab a pen, grab a piece of paper and be ready to write down all your different ideas. Now, I am predominantly a non-fiction author. I haven't published any works of fiction yet. I am a non-fiction author. I only like to usually write fiction books for children of 3 to 5 year olds, but I haven't had anything published as of yet. And I'm predominantly focused on non-fiction. That's what I love to do. Non-fiction books changes people's lives. My books, which you obviously have seen, these two particularly ones, have literally changed people's lives. I get people messaging me how much their lives have changed. This one, you know, I get people quoting from the book, and this changes lives, even though someone might not be having fibromyalgia, because this is an autobiographical self-help handbook, how to manage fibromyalgia, have less pain, more energy and feel happier. But also these techniques, a lot of them throughout the book, apply to anyone, no matter what they're doing in their life. It manages pain in 25 aspects of your life that you've probably not even thought about before. And it shows you how to overcome depression, reduce anxiety, which a lot of people can do with. So just because it's fibromyalgia book doesn't mean to say it just is for fibro people. Well, obviously that's who it's aimed at. I have fibromyalgia, but I manage it super well and have a ton of energy. So I wanted to help share my advice, help with guidance with what I've found out throughout the years since 2012, my diagnosis, what really works for fibromyalgia, you know, what foods to cut out of your diet that literally drain your energy, and what foods boost your energy, and what one food ingredient stop you having that run over your legs feeling like they've been run over by a bus, basically. And so I worked on this quite a lot, and it finally came out last year. I'm known as Ace Fibro Girl, by the way. That is my superhero look, my alter ego. Ace because I am asexual, hence why I've written this book, and I'm currently working on my second book for asexuals. So like I said, you should have basically, like, you do a creative splurge, so you put in the middle like your title of book, so Fibromyalgia Self-Help Handbook, and then I would do like all the headings off there, so like a spider diagram. I mean, I'm doing a spider diagram for my Asexual Guide to Sex book, but you would do something like that in the middle, and then basically I want Asexual Guide to Sex being the #1 bestseller. That's what I was writing. But you do this spider diagram here, and then write the different offshoots of it. Yeah. So it's really, really important to do that for what you're writing for. And so it's really, really, really important. And just get all your thoughts out on paper, right? So don't be so pedantic over this beginning, middle, and end that you kind of like it stunts you writing anything. You get writer's block, right? Just do the creative splurge, write in the middle your your whole book topic, then write chapter headings out from that, and then write the subheadings underneath as much as you know. Like sometimes when you get into flow, a lot more chapters and headings come to you naturally. So don't be so rigid. I mean, in this book, Fibromyalgia Self-Help Handbook, I had to change a lot of the chapters around to make it flow properly. When I finally got a lot of it together, there's a natural progression you begin to see. Now, this is my own autobiographical self-help handbook. So like I said, I did have to change a lot of the chapters around, but that's okay. And it kind of comes to the end. So if you write some chapters later on in the book, you can still change them to further at the front of the book. If you've got some in the middle, but you think they'd be better at the end or nearer the beginning, you can change them around. So don't be afraid to change them around, right? This is how you should approach your writing. You should not have something so fixed in the beginning that enables you to get writer's block and you can't think what to do next because you're so worried about the structure all the time. And also that you feel like you can't get any ideas out because you think, I can't see the whole book right now, because you won't be able to see the whole book right now in the beginning a lot of the time. It will manifest itself. You just have to do the work. But also, if you're specifically writing an interview book, so that's what I was saying in the title, if you're writing an interview book, this is an interview book. So I interviewed 46 other asexuals. If you don't know what asexuality is, it's basically a sexual orientation that's lack of sexual attraction. That's my specialist niche. I've been helping asexuals online for 5 years. I've got another channel called Asexualize My Asexual Life, which I live stream on usually every day, which is why a lot of the time I'm not so much on this channel. And basically this, I've interviewed 46 asexuals around the globe across the what we call asexual spectrum, because asexuality is a spectrum of sexuality, and I'm asexual myself, so I'm the 47th person. Now, when you're writing a book like this, I've structured it in terms of interview questions within the book. That's my style. You don't have to do that, but that works really well for me. And I've specifically taken all the questions that people were asking me about asexuality in private message and put them all into this book. So I know it's a valuable book that people will appreciate. It will give them the answers they're looking for. And therefore, people will want to buy the book, tell their friends about it, and it will help them solve a lot of problems in their life and the pain that you need to solve. Because if you're doing a non-fiction book, you need to solve people's problems. It needs to be, your aim needs to be to them to solve a problem for your readers. That's why they buy non-fiction books. And with an interview style book, you should be aiming to get interviews that solve someone's problem. So, for example, if you were writing a book for women who are, an interview style book for women who are dating over 40, you could do the autobiographical type like I've done if you're over 40. That is, and write from your own personal perspective, what that's like. But if you want to make it more powerful, or you've got a lot of questions that you feel like other people's stories could be more beneficial, not just your own, then you'd want to do it in more of an interview style with other people, right? So when you're writing an interview style book, it's important that you do outline the, like as much of the book as possible, like the chapters that you're thinking about having in there, the questions, but also, you need to be understanding that with people's interview stories, you need to be writing the beginning and the end last usually. right? And there's a reason for this, and it's because that you don't know what the story's going to be like in the middle of the book, which is going to take up the bulk of the book, and you're going to have to write conclusions based on what those people have said in their interview answers, right? So, you know, the end, really, the beginning, middle, and end really is the beginning and middle and end in terms of the end, but you write the beginning last as well. So you write the beginning and the end, both of them last. And the reason you write the beginning last is because there may be stuff in the book that's cropped up throughout the answers of the interviewees that you need to address in the beginning of the book. You know, they haven't fully covered it, they've left stuff out, or you might need to give a warning to some of the people in the book of what's coming up, especially if it's sensitive information. Or, you know, like generally they might have just missed stuff out that you need to make sure you're covering. But again, you don't want to write the whole beginning of the book and it'd be so like other people's answers that you're just repeating it, because that's just going to get really boring. You should have some repetition because, you know, you've got to have continuity, you've got to have realism, you know, and if there's no repetitions, it'll just look like you've like so edited the book out that it's not real and not realistic. But you know what I mean? So, for example, in my latest book that I'm writing is for asexuals, called Asexual Guide to Sex, ironically. There are a lot of stories, and well, there are 14 stories in the book besides my own. One of them's going towards the very, very end because that's like a specialist ongoing story. And then the others, you know, in the middle, there's certain things that they haven't put in their stories that I really want covering in the book. So I know for definite I have to be doing that in the beginning of the book, and that's kind of my section, the beginning of the book. A lot of the time it's my own personal story, then it goes into other people's stories. And so I need to make sure that I've covered all the different types of things that they haven't put in their stories that I think is relevant to my reader, that my reader will really want to know and hear about, and that's, like I said, not covered. Now, if I'd have written all the beginning bit first and I hadn't read all the stories, one, I could have left stuff out myself, or I could just be totally writing exactly or nearly the same as they're writing, right? So it's a waste of time from that point of view. So in the beginning, it's best to like write some headings out, bits of what you definitely want to cover for your own personal story. Then yes, go for it. Excuse me, because no one's going to copy your story. But you know, you should be leaving some of the beginning section free so that you can basically go through all the other interview stories. And like I said, write anything in the beginning that you think may be of interest to the reader, or something the reader wants to know that they don't already know from reading the rest of the stories, something that will aid the other stories coming up in the book. You know, like you might want to say something about some of the stories coming up in the book, you know, like for example, in my quirky books, which is not usually done, I break a lot of rules because that's why they're quirky, they're different. So I mix English language with American language, for example. You know, it's English, but I mix the English version of English and the American English together in the same book, so that if someone's from America, they can actually write in their own language, their own American English spelling, as it were. And I make that clear in the beginning of the book that is done purposely. It's not spelling errors, it's done on purpose. You know, I could go around correcting the whole thing and make it either all English, all American English, but I don't do that. I want someone who's from England, like myself, to write in my own British English language, and someone's from America to write in their own American English language, because I think that's more authentic, more real, and it adds to realism. That's my own personal style. And because my quirky books do break rules basically of certain English rules, and I first for crossing over genres as well, then, you know, I break new ground. I break like kind of writing rules, as it were, in some instances. So you know, that's what I personally want to do. So I need to let people know, you know, that there's going to be, you know, there's going to be slang in this as well. You're going to read it like it's a conversation that you're having with a person, so expect some slang. You know, not all proper grammar. Expect American English, expect British English. Now, if I haven't warned the reader about that, I'm going to get really bad reviews saying, why you've just like mixed up all this language, I'm not happy about it, now you're writing slang, you know, you haven't edited it. Whereas, you know, the Asexual Guide to Sex, but I'm working on some people, I've worked with them on their personal stories for about 6 months, even more. You know, it's been backwards and forwards editing, very, very thorough editing. But I want to keep it raw and real. So that's why I leave some of that, you know, that type of thing in. I leave the language in. You know, I do it personally like that. So that's something I need to put in the beginning of the book, you know. and I need to let people know that they're, you know, that they're, I'm me, but the other people can be anonymous, you know, and stuff like that. But also anything that's going to come up, you know, like I know, for example, in my Asexual Guide to Sex book, something that's not really covered is sort of the act of oral sex, for example. And so a lot of people have talked about the sex act, the intercourse, but they haven't gone into detail about how, you know, you can make the experience of oral sex a more pleasant one, for example, which I'm going to be covering my section of the book. Now, had someone already done their story and they just was loving oral sex and they just decided that they wanted to write, you know, a whole section about it and how to do it, all the different techniques and stuff like that, I wouldn't need to then go into it in the book, would I, in my part of the story, because it would be covered later on. I'm just going over old ground and I'm just covering the same thing. Do you know what I mean? And people are going to get a bit like, well, I've heard this before. So this is why it's important with an interview style non-fiction book that you actually leave the beginning and the end both predominantly to the end. Like I said, you could make notes, you can still make some headings, chapter headings and subheadings of what you think should go there, but you want to get the main interview stories of other people's done, so you kind of know what type of thing that, you know, you're going to be writing, you know, the flow of the book, you kind of know the feel of the book, the style of the book, because there'll be kind of a feel once you start getting into the different stories, the interview stories that people tell. You know, you'll kind of get a feel for the book. It'll feel a certain style, a certain way, and then you can match your style of talking, of you know, the way you're doing your personal story and the way you're doing your intro and the end of the story. You know, you can actually match that sort of style, if that makes sense. So this is my top tip for you, or tips should I say, if you are writing a non-fiction book with interviews in it. The beginning, the middle and the end, focus on the middle first and then do the you know, the bulk of the middle first, you know, write just an outline of the whole thing. So get your pen and paper, write the subject, title, the you know, the cover, or you think the main subject is going to be, then write titles of chapters and subtitles, you know, what ideally you want in the beginning, middle, end, but don't write that, you know, don't actually write the bulk of it, the beginning and the end, until you've got all the main stories in from other people, you know, because that's going to take your most time up, really, if you're covering a lot of stories. I mean, this book took me a year to write. This is 47 asexual stories. I interviewed 46. In my current book, it's only 14 I've interviewed, but some of them are really in depth on the advice, and I've had to have like 50 like emails or plus with some of the people backwards and forwards to get their stories put, you know, into really easy to understand way, you know, because they know what it was like for them when they were in the situation, because it's exploring how they lost their virginity and what it was like to have sex for the first time. So, you know, they know what they're saying, but I've got to think of how this comes across the reader. What are the details of the reader, like who's new to having sex, with an asexual guide to sex? So most asexuals who don't experience sexual attraction, don't get the need, urge, or want for it, don't actually usually think about having sex. They don't understand what to do with their legs, arms, hands, for example. They don't understand, you know, what sort of mindset you need to have, what sort of things you need to prepare for it. So that's why the Asexual Guide to Sex book is going to be so good for those type of people, you know. And so you know, obviously you should have a market for your book. That goes without saying. You know, you should have someone or some people, you know, that you're aiming the book for, that you can make sure you're answering the questions that they really have, their burning desire questions. That's what the book should answer, which is what my Asexual Guide to Sex book will answer, because I'm in forums with asexuals. I run 5 asexual groups on Facebook. I talk to asexuals all the time, so I understand their problems, their pain, what they're going through, you know. So I make sure my book answers the questions that they really need in the form of interview answers, you know. That's my style. So, but there are different ways of writing different types of interview books, you know, so do get some out from the library if it helps you, you know, to figure out what type of style you want for your own interview book. But like I said, really my very top tip is to write the bulk of the beginning and the end, both of them, at the end of your book writing. You know, get the other stories done first, which should be all your middle section, the bulk of the middle section of the book. Anyway, I hope you found this top writing tip helpful. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. Please share it with your writing friends. or anyone you think may benefit from these tips. And I'll look forward to seeing you on the next video live stream. If you haven't already subscribed, please hit that great big subscribe button below and hit that bell icon to get notified of every time I go live like now, I'll post a new video. And if you want more writing help, advice, tips, please do comment below because I can create more videos like this. Otherwise, I will keep doing videos that give you different types of life hacks for different situations to live your best life, be your best self, and live your purpose. Until next time, embrace your quirky and each other's. Check out my links to my books below, and I'll see you on the next video live stream. Take care. Bye-bye.